Hey, Freddie, can you hear me? Hey, nice. All right. We can wait for a few more minutes and then when we can start. No, Freddie, I can't hear you. Maybe what you can do is you disconnect and join again. This sorted it for me actually. Hey guys, this is the office hour session for custom components. So the ongoing hackathon, we have this track 2, which is about building a custom component. And it gives you a great chance to win $2,500. And how you can build it, we have some instructions on the organization page. And we have with us today Pete and Freddie from Gradio team. They will be taking questions on how you can build a custom component in Gradio, and they will also be providing you with some resources. So let's just wait for a bit before they join, and I think I can make Pete a speaker too. Just give me 1 second. Hey guys. Hey Pete.
Hey folks.
Hey Freddie. Yeah, we can hear you, Freddie. I can't hear you, Pete.
You can't hear me?
No, I can now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Stage is all yours. I'll mute myself now.
Cool. So thanks for coming. We're going to start off with just a quick demo for those who aren't familiar. We did put on the invite that, if you were just curious about custom components, you should come along too. And we don't want people to be intimidated by custom components. They're not that complex, although there are a few moving parts. So I will figure out how to share my screen. There we go. I'll share entire screen. And here we go. And I'll do a quick demo. So custom components are Gradio's way of allowing you to extend it so that if Gradio does not have a capability you want it to have, you can build your own. So I'll jump across to my terminal. Can I make it big? It'll do. And so we've got a Gradio CC command. So if you have Gradio installed, this CC command will be available to you. And the way this works essentially is it allows you to bootstrap a custom component. So before doing that, I'm going to create a directory called custom component. Actually, you don't need to do that. Sorry. So in order to see what components we can create, we've got this list command, and it shows you all of the different templates for custom components. So if I run this now, that's good. Let's run cc help. Show. Okay. There we go. So there's a nice help command in case you get stuck. So here we can see we've got this list, and it's basically most of the built-in components that we have. But if you have a Gradio component that's maybe similar to the one that you want to create, or it's maybe it just doesn't have some capability and you want to kind of remix it, then you can come here and you can pick any of these templates. And we have a lot, and we have some simplified kind of versions as well if you want something simple. So we're going to Gradio CC create to bootstrap it, and we're going to do my image slider, and then we pass in this template argument, and we're going to choose image slider like this. And this is going to create a my image slider directory. It's going to kind of create the backend code, the front-end code. It's going to install Python, which will happen quite fast. And then it's going to do an npm install to install the JavaScript dependencies, which won't happen fast if you're using npm. So this is just an opportunity to sit silently and reflect on all of the mistakes that you've made in your life. Yeah, there's a --npm underscore install command, and you can pass in a custom command to run for the npm install step. So obviously you can. I wanted to show it just with the defaults. This is remarkable. There we go. PNPM is much faster. So I will go through these just very quickly. I'm not actually going to enter them, but we have basically a set of kind of prompts where you can answer some questions. So a description, a license, the allowed Python versions, depending on what kind of Python features you're using, and then some keywords. These are just tags that we use to help discover the components. So we now created the component, so we can jump across to my image slider, and if I do an ls, we can see that we've got these kind of different directories. So I'll open this in Z. Why not? And I don't know how to make this sidebar bigger, so you're just gonna have to squint. But we have a backend / Gradio _ my image slider folder, a demo folder, and a front end folder. The backend folder is the file you really need to care about. Is this .py file, and it's just essentially it's quite large, but most of it is boilerplate. All you really need to do is any kind of custom arguments. Make sure we attach them to the instance down here. And then we have a preprocess, and this runs before the user function. So in this case, we receive a kind of a deserialized payload, and then we can do some kind of convenient stuff depending on what options you've got set. And then postprocess runs after the user function, so after the user's predict function, and that just kind of prepares things to be serialized and sent down to the front end. In front end, we have the front end code. So all Gradio components are Svelte components, and this is essentially, this index.svelte is a bunch of boilerplate and it has lots of kind of Gradio specific stuff. But then we essentially just import, in this case, static image and image uploader for the image editor, and that's where the bulk of the logic, and this is where all of your custom logic would go. And like I say, you could just pick an appropriate template and then just hack on it. So we've got a dev server that I'll run now. We could do a Gradio cc dev. You just do this from the root, and it will launch a live reloading server for you. So this has a nice, this has a nice demo for you. And now if we go back to Z. Yeah, sorry, it's some kind of moped situation. I'm outside, so yeah, so we go back here, and if I just make this, so we can see both. I don't know what you are. If we go into index, and then we go into one of the, we go into static image. Well, that didn't work. We'll go into static image, which is slider preview. And if I just for example, if I just go and edit this label, the Formula 1 driver's back. And I save this, we can see that this text here live reloads. So we have a nice development experience, and the same happens in the Python. So if we go here, I think actually it already has a value here, but if you make any changes here, it will do more of a kind of reload and then reload the page, so you can see any kind of changes in real time. Additional to that, when you're ready, you can do a Gradio cc build. And this will build your component, so it will kind of it will build the front end, it will build the back end, ready to be kind of essentially ready to be published to PyPy. And that's quite quick. It succeeded. And now what this also does, it generates docs for you. So if we run, so the docs get saved in this demo/myspace.py. And if we reload this now, it's the wrong server. So if we do this here, we can see we've got actually auto-generated documentation for the component as well. And you get all the parameters, the events, and then it explains the signature of the user function, the input and the output that's defined by the pre and post process. So when you're happy, I can't fully demo this, but we have a Gradio, because I don't have my keys set up properly. We have a Gradio CC publish step, which I'm pretty sure is going to fail for me. But what this will do is it will upload to PyPy, and it will also upload to Hugging Face spaces. This will just fail. Yeah. And that's kind of like the long and short of it. So that's kind of the CLI workflow. I'll just make sure I've not... You can also run the docs command independently if you want to do something else with your docs without the build. And you can find all of this stuff in the demo directory. So the app.py is your demo. You can obviously change this. This is actually the demo that gets embedded into your docs over here. And that's the demo that runs when you kind of call dev. And then the space.py is the actual is all of the code for this essentially. Oh, it's a bit weird. Yeah, there is. So if you wanted to tweak your docs, you could do that as well. And then as soon as you're published, you're ready to start using it. You can tell people about it. You can tell us about it. You can win prizes and fame and other things. So in order to get started, we have a custom components in 5 minutes guide, which I recommend. It's kind of a quick guide on essentially what I've just gone through. And then we have some more kind of like deep dives into various kind of bits and pieces for custom components. And the other cool thing here is we have this gradio.app/custom component/gallery. So this is a custom component gallery of all the current custom components we've got, and they're sorted by popularity. Popularity being how many likes the space has received on Hugging Face spaces. And this might be some nice inspiration, or maybe you wanted to update or extend one of these. That's another great idea as well. So that's it for my demo. If I can find Discord again and stop sharing. Oh. Yeah, definitely. Let's go back. Can you re-see my screen? Excellent. So, yeah, we have in the front end, we have obviously the file. So shared usually contains the any shared files and stuff. The example is if you are if your user is kind of providing examples with gr.examples, this is what will kind of get rendered. It's usually like a very, very simplified version of the custom component. And then we have the index, which is the entry point. But we also have a tsconfig and a package.json. And these are essentially the dependencies. So we have these Gradio atoms and Gradio clients and Gradio icons and status tracker and stuff. And these are all kind of packages that are published, written by us, and we use them internally. So essentially, the process to create a custom component is the exact same process that we go through when we are creating a component. So it's, most things are possible. There are obviously going to be certain things that aren't possible, but you can actually do quite a lot with this. And certainly anything we're doing in Gradio, you could do externally with a custom component. There are more of these. I don't know if they're particularly well documented. In some cases, we export, like simpler buttons. A lot of these components are intended to be used as Gradio components, not necessarily as, individual components in a web app. So in some cases, we export like slightly simpler versions of things like the button, and then that simpler version can be pulled in I'm not 100% on how well documented this is. Well, I'm pretty sure it's poorly documented, but I don't know how poorly documented. So if you did want to use maybe some of the built-in components and you're having difficulty, I would ping us and see. These D3 drag, D3 selection, we've got the types on, we've got the actual packages here. These are our kind of external dependencies. We're using this kind of package to support kind of drag and drop more easily. And then this is the dev dependency kind of preview. So if you do run into issues, one thing that you might want to do first and foremost is to, let's go back into Warp. If you cd into frontend, is just to do a npm outdated and just see if you're up to date, because sometimes we've got some issues. In this case, we've got Svelte. We need to, stay on a 4.x version for now. 5.x is not supported right now. But we don't have anything else. Whereas if we were seeing, maybe some of our Gradio components are out of date, or in particular, Gradio/pre. Yeah, because this controls all of the dev server, the build, like lots of the pieces are controlled by this. And if like maybe there was a bug, we fix that bug, you're going to want to come into here and update Gradio preview, because the latest one automatically get pulled in. It gets pinned to, in this case, it gets pinned to a specific version. It isn't even a version range. So you need to kind of go in and update that. And likewise, it's possible that you might need to tweak the tsconfig.json. I think it does need to, I think it's actually not quite right. I did that quite recently, and we have some. Yeah, that's different. But that might need tweaking. But by all means, kind of reach out to us if you are having issues. Out of the box, it works in most cases. We pushed some changes recently, but ensuring your dependencies are up to date, especially on the JavaScript side, is pretty important. If you have any other specific issues that aren't resolved by an update, one common pitfall is, especially if you're using we recommend using a virtual environment always. If you use UV, that can be kind of handled for you with UV VM, and then install Gradio and then go from there. That's definitely the safest way to develop. You may need to kind of either run Gradio CC install. I need to come out of this. If you run Gradio CC install, it will, the create process does this for you, but you might need to do it at different times, especially if, you come out of your virtual environment and go back in, things can happen. And if that doesn't resolve it, especially if you're getting Python module not found errors, you might want to do a UV pip install -e, an editable install, which is frequently what's required. You can also just do, that's wrong. You can also just, if you're not using UV, you can just do a regular pip install -e, which will install. That didn't work. That's fantastic. I did it the wrong way around. Like that. Doesn't this work? Let me do Gradio. Anyway, yeah. But that is a common kind of issue that we see. Yeah, and I highly recommend using PyEnv to manage your Python versions, and some kind of virtual environment manager, just to keep everything kind of like, local and prevent all this kind of global pollution with dependencies and stuff. That does tend to work better for me. At the minute, I'm not in a virtual environment, which is why I was confused about my Python version, but so it's a case in point, I think. I think we're ready for anything else, Freddie, do you think, or should we jump to any questions that we might have? Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? You can just raise your hands, if so. Oh, hold on. We have...
Hey guys, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat or you can raise your hand and we will get you on stage.
Yeah, I'll share my screen again. So we can show kind of the structure and if you did want to make changes, what you would do. So out of the bot, wrong tab. All icons for all tech software is just some kind of black square or circle now, which makes it impossible to tab between them. So in this very tiny sidebar, we've got this kind of front-end directory, and the way it essentially works is it's entirely defined by the package.json. So here in these kind of export conditions, this is what these are called, exports. These are the entry points into the module. So when someone installs this, and we kind of use this to manage paths ourselves, we have these kind of like dist index, and the types are in dist index types and stuff. So if you were to change, say, the index to a different file, you wanted to call it entry.svelte or put it in a subfolder or something, you would need to update this Gradio condition, and these kind of dist will become relative to where they were. So if you move the index into, something / index, then this would then be dist / something / index. So as long as kind of these fields are pointing, in this case, to your index source file, and in these cases to the built files, and we can see up here, no, we can't. There's no dist. Is it being ignored? Oh, there it is. Nope, that's a different dist. Okay, maybe I haven't built properly. But these need to link to the actual kind of file. So you can change your package structure. The way that we have got this set up essentially is we have the index.svelte, which is the main entry point, and then we have the example.svelte. And then we put all of the other modules into shared. And the way JavaScript works is it's just file-based imports, so it's all very explicit. So if we go to the index, we can see here we're just importing from ./shared / slider preview, and that is an actual file that you can trace in the file system. So you can essentially do whatever you want. The other thing to note is this file has a lot of boilerplate in it, and what this boilerplate does essentially is it ensures that your component works in Gradio. So the majority of the props that are passed down here, which is defined with this export let syntax, are kind of shared with all components. So pretty much all Gradio components have label, show label, so on and so forth. And the ones that are specific are, I think it's just slider position, upload count, slider color isn't even on the Python interface. So most of these are shared. So for example, show full screen button, we have the ability to. No, it's not here. Is it still? We have the ability to kind of click a button in the corner and it will take over the full screen. And these are kind of shared functionalities across kind of components. So using this as kind of like a base And then if you want to dispatch any of the kind of the built-in events, that these map directly to the events defined in your Python file here. These are here. You would do from anywhere a Gradio .dispatch, in this case change, or whatever the event is, and you would just trigger that at the appropriate moment based on whatever the behavior of your component is. But other than that, we generally same with these block things, these add the kind of the borders and the toolbars and so on and so forth, so that everything looks consistent, that they inherit themes if people are using them and stuff like that. So you can deviate if you want to, but it could cause breakage when kind of embedded within visual breakage when embedded within a Gradio application. Yeah, and I guess another thing to talk about here would be this gradio.config.js. So I don't want to get into too many details, but this essentially controls the front end build process. So we use a tool called Vite. I don't know what Zed's doing. We use a tool called Vite to handle the dev server, the front end dev server, and the front end build process. And there are a series of plugins, very many plugins, and likewise there are many Svelte preprocessors as well. For most common use cases, it will work out of the box. But if you were doing something specific, if you were handling, say, for example, you wanted to import GLSL, shader language files, you might need to install a Vite plugin for that, and this is the place where you could do that. So we will pull in this config. When you run dev, you'll need to restart the dev server if you do make changes here, and we will merge them with our own config, and hopefully things should work. This is more of an escape hatch for an advanced use case, but it is necessary for certain workflows, for certain kind of libraries, for certain packages. You can, but it depends. So I mentioned before that it was there's some variation on how reusable components are. It's difficult to show from here, but if I go to GitHub, and we just take a look at the repo. So let me zoom. Let's take Accordion as an example. So Accordion does have entry points, although it might have weird ones. I think it has entry points. It has a package.json. And yeah, it doesn't have a default. We should probably add a default. So in the case of something like Accordion, I don't know if it should resolve the Svelte kind of field, but that might not be working particularly well. In a case of another component, I'm relatively confident Button does support this. Oh, let's go here. It's been very slow. On Button. There we go. So if we go in Button, for example, we can see that oh, hold on. We need to go into here. So Button does export base Button, but it does do it from those same entry points. So in the case, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where base button is a simplified version of button, so it doesn't have all of these, all of this stuff, all of these wrappers, and all of this boilerplate that kind of like allows you to integrate a kind of a custom component into a Gradio app, because you don't want that. But we haven't really kind of like looked into how reusable the components are yet. So it will vary depending on your use case. So what I'd recommend in those cases is to just ping us, and we can give guidance on the individual components, and potentially we can always kind of ship changes to those published npm components to make it easier to extend. Yeah. Row should be fine, because row is really simple, even the very entry point. So it should be working, but if it's not working for you, then that's obviously something we need to fix. Yeah, this is now an official component, but before that it was, and it's just here it was a Gradio image slider was a custom component until we brought it into core, and you just install it and then you can use it like this. The way this actually works, it's not like doing anything at runtime, it's not fetching it from a CDN. It actually, the front end output is installed into your kind of, say you're on Spaces, it's installed into the same machine that has kind of Gradio installed, and it just pulls the files out when they're needed. So it's as performant as any Gradio custom component. It's basic as any built-in Gradio component. They're essentially identical. They just kind of like live in different packages inside of your install.
Yeah, I think as long as you have created a custom component and you can use it in your workflow, in your space that you're creating, and you think that the components that were already there, they were not that useful for you, I think we can consider that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's hard to imagine something that an agent can't make use of, to be honest. I'm sure there's some use case somewhere, even for the most. We used to have someone kind of way back. In fact, one of the reasons we created custom components was for this molecule viewer. I don't know if you remember, by one of our fellows, and is a super niche kind of component, but it had and obviously it had scientific use cases, but also it had kind of clear AI use cases, and there's probably countless, relatively straightforward custom components that we don't support. For example, you could imagine I'm obsessed with food clearly, but a recipe viewer or a nutrition viewer, or even those they're just relatively simple kind of data representations, but they could be the difference in making an okay experience a really compelling and engaging one with a really nice user experience.
Yeah, I think we have one more question in the chat. It says, can I extend a existing component if I want to start from image slider to generate another component similar? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think that's what Freddie was saying before. You just run Gradio CC create with the -- template, and you just, whichever component you want to extend, you're not extending in the true sense. You are remixing, but you get that template base, and then you can kind of it's much better, it's much simpler to just copy paste is more flexible than inheritance, I guess, is the theory there. So you don't want to extend in the technical sense a component, but you can use that as a base and then just remix it and make whatever, and it's a great way to learn how Gradio components actually work as well, by just like maybe taking a simple component and playing around with different parameters and stuff. Yeah. And I guess on that topic, the Svelte is obviously its own thing, but if you go across to svelte.dev, which is the Svelte website, and go to the tutorial if you are new, there's a really, really fantastic interactive tutorial there. And if you just takes like an hour to go through, and it will teach you all of the, although it's actually probably Svelte 5 now, actually, now I think about it. Yeah, don't do that actually, because we don't support Svelte 5 yet. Maybe the old one is still around somewhere. But there's some great resources over there on how to get started with Svelte as well, and a whole community. There's a Svelte Discord and stuff if you really want to dive in.
All right, I think we are on top of the hour. So guys, if you're okay, we can wrap this up.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot for coming, everyone.
All right. Yeah, this wraps up our another amazing session. Huge thanks, Freddie and Pete, for sharing your insights with the community. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. See you, folks.